Oh my, there's some flames. This is Black Power Magic Hour. My name is Messiah Rhodes.
And I am Dr. Evil Genius. What's happening on this Tuesday evening?
We're here tonight. It's Tuesday night. I'm back in New York. The Bears thing, we couldn't negotiate a contract with the Bears to come down here to replace the police down here with the Bears. So, unfortunately. But right now, we had a whole bunch of breaking news the past couple of days of Jeff Bezos making more money than you and Trump being crazy talking about COVID-19. But there's
What
some
is
good
news
news.
about
A
Jeff
lot of times,
Bezos making more money than me? What's news about that?
I think he made like a new $14 billion in a day or some shit like that, while you're like, everyone's trying to figure out if they're getting $600 at the end of the month. So that's what's pretty much happened with Jeff
That sounds so
Bezos.
fucked up when you say it like that. Like the rest of the country is
This one
wondering,
man,
whether we're gonna, be allowed to live, or we're gonna get picked up in a rental van by some nameless government agents. Jeff Bezos is like, how many billions can I stack today?
you could steal all the Amazon packages you want. He still made $14 billion. But before we get to the terrible nightmare news of mysterious vans and mysterious agents picking people up, we're gonna play Bad Cops, Bad Cops. And Jesse dropped a segment real quick.
1, 2, 3.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Bad cops, bad cops. Bad cops, bad cops. Bad cops, bad cops. Bad cops, bad cops.
Yes, so many cops are on the tick. What do you expect when they use tear gas and tanks? Whether in a car or on a horse, cops don't mind using excessive force.
Bad cops, bad cops.
What you gonna do?
Bad cops, bad cops.
What you gonna do?
Bad cops, bad cops.
What you gonna do?
Bad cops, bad cops.
This is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
That is.
Hey, Mary from Colorado, Facebook. What's up?
Yeah, Mary Wash, how you doing? Ashley Toronto, thank you for joining us tonight. Much appreciated.
Yeah, if you
Man, that intro video to Bad Cops, man. Oh, wow. I don't know why it still feels so new to me, because every time I watch it, I'm like, wow, we're really doing this, and we're doing it like this.
So when people talk about, when people talk about Black Lives Matter, like, oh, what about black and black crime? What about all this stuff? So it's also the economic justice component of it. When you talk about, Black lives, you're talking about black people who have equal opportunities with like education and pay. This is what we're talking about with Black Lives Matter. So a couple of days ago, there was a strike for Black Lives. If like Jesse pulls up this video real quick, it shows you like connecting the dots,
Earlier this morning, hundreds of workers here at the Hunts Marketplace came out and demanded justice for all. They did that in a silent and peaceful strike. It's one of many happening across the nation today in cities like Los Angeles and Miami and Chicago, and right here in the tri-state area. Here at the Bronx Marketplace, the strike is over, but their message is clear. They want justice for all, as there were 1,400 union workers who came out to support that mission. The 7 a.m. strike lasted 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That's the amount of time a police officer is accused of pressing down on George Floyd in Minneapolis. These Teamsters Local 202 union members want to honor Floyd's memory and express solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. They started.
Tracy Durso, thank you for joining us tonight. Much appreciated.
For the silent vigil.
So these are workers.
He's proud of his members for finding a safe way.
Some of them look black, some of them white, but they're all striking for the same cause.
Workers' rights, civil rights, human rights, women's rights, they all go hand in hand. And every day our union fights for workers' rights on the job, and there's a solidarity there.
The food market employees also want to make it a point that they've been working during this pandemic with the PPEs that have been provided to them, including face masks and shields and gloves and even hand sanitizer. So it's their goal to not only stay safe, but also make sure the food supply is safe too. Again, these strikes are continuing throughout the day across the country. We're in the Bronx. I'm Rebecca Solomon, Pix 11 News.
So Jesse can pause that. So when people say Black
it's
lives.
great that she's wearing that mask because she looks like she belongs in Mortal Kombat, and you need to have the skills of a Mortal Kombat character to survive in the Bronx these days. So, yeah.
Pretty much, But like with people, economic justice, when people come, like, why are people desperate and want to rob you in the streets? Why are you scared of black people? Because
Yeah,
you get less jobs, you get less paid.
Hold on a second.
So
Hold on a second. We got a Waffle 779 in Twitch says something very interesting that I want to address as soon as it gets out there. They say, I don't understand the whole strike and march thing. No amount of that stuff will bring those poor souls back. So I want to draw your attention back to Trayvon Martin. Hell, we can go back to Rodney King.
What do you mean? What do you mean by Rodney King and Trayvon Martin?
Right. So it's saying that no amount of these the marches and the protests are going to bring those people back. But what we're trying to get accomplished, what people are trying to accomplish, is that when we have these kinds of injustices that happen, we're hoping that the awareness then prevents future atrocities, because we don't want to let the people who have been killed unnecessarily and unjustly, we don't want them to have their lives be lost in vain. We can use these situations to point out to people that these things should not be accepted by the American people. And if we get the American people behind these movements in solidarity to stop a lot of these things from happening in the first place, then we don't get another George Floyd in the future, hopefully. Or, instead of getting a George Floyd incident once every 6 months, maybe we can limit it to once every 6 years, or even less frequent than that. So the marches are never just about the people who have passed. It's also about making sure that people understand that this machine keeps rolling forward, and perhaps we can stop the machine where it's at now to prevent someone else from meeting a similar fate.
Yeah, and that's a true story. And speaking of which, something that affects all of us, Jesse drops this one deal right here that from Portland, which is like kind of a mayor is begging for weird, mysterious agents to get out of the city. It's pretty crazy.
Now to another night of protests in Portland, Oregon, and the mayor pushing back against the White House's response, demanding federal agents leave immediately and blaming them for an increase in violence and vandalism. Kana Whitworth is in Portland with the very latest. Kana, good morning.
Wick, good morning. The protest last night marked 53 straight nights of protests here in Portland, and the violence has been escalating.
53.
The mayor says that's because of
God.
the presence of law enforcement agencies sent in by the president. He says they operate with no official markings and have gone so far as to pull protesters into unmarked vehicles and deny them
They can be fucking zombies.
process.
Who knows what
he
they
says
are?
it's tantamount to kidnapping, and he wants them out now, as do the protesters. The mayor says this is all a political ploy by the president to gain political ground. Now, Cecilia, the president, denies that, tweeting, "We're trying to help Portland, not hurt it."
Yeah, that's crazy. They're sending in Black Ops operatives. They're sending in Black Ops operatives against like regular ass people in our own country, like they're invading Cuba or some shit. Like,
Yo, how you hopping in like a fucking soccer mom rental van going on a trip to like a regional conference, soccer conference rental van, and you're like using it for merchants, crazy shit. Context of military industrial complex. They do this in Pakistan, they do this in Syria, they do this in Somalia. They pull up on you middle of the night, take you away. You don't even know who's taking you away. Sometimes they be dressed up as cops taking you away. So this is happening everywhere, and now they're doing it here within this weird, 100-mile border bullshit. Within 100 miles, they can do whatever they want with people. So this is pretty wild out here. This was happening in Portland. But at the same time, Trump, I guess he thinks this is like wilding his base up.
how you know this is bad?
For him. And
you know how bad this is? I saw a news article today where they had like some middle-aged white soccer moms join arm in arm to try to shield the other protesters from having their rights being trampled on. And the crazy thing is, like, we hear from a lot of these preppers and, you know, these, you know, anti-government guys with their fucking guns and all this other shit. We always hear them talk about our, you know, how our rights are being trampled on. And then, like, you don't hear from none of these motherfuckers when, like, people that don't say the speech that they agree with, now they don't give a fuck about their rights. Now it's, you know, first, you know, these are the same people protesting to get haircuts because they didn't want to stay in their house and, you know, fuck their wives and watch Netflix. They didn't want to do that, so they were out protesting. And they were talking about their rights. But you don't hear from none of these motherfuckers when you see actual black ops fucking operatives operating on home soil. Like, that shit fucks my head up. I can't. I just can't, man.
Speaking of that, you know, Jesse dropped his next video. Yeah, Jesse dropped his next video. It pretty much shows you, like, you know, this threat. Maybe he might, you know, fulfill this threat. Who knows? Trump says a lot of lies, but we could play this video with Craig.
President Trump is considering sending 175 federal troops to cities to help local law enforcement with protests, and that includes Portland.
They were ripping down for 51 days, ripping down that city, destroying the city, looting it. The level
so you send black operation agents for
corruption
it? Fucking weirdo.
And what was going on there is incredible. And then the governor comes, oh, we don't need any help.
The president is also considering sending law enforcement to Chicago and New York for similar reasons.
You know what's real funny about that? You know what really fucks me up? He said the government says that the governor says we don't need any help, but I'm going to send troops in there to do more violent shit. But when the states say, hey, you know, we have a fucking hurricane going on, or, you know, we're having some sort of budget shortfall, we need help from the government. Nah, you on your own. So it's like, when we ask for your
here's
help,
some paper towels, Puerto Rico. That's what happened to Puerto Rico. Here's some paper towels.
Yeah, you're throwing fucking rolls of paper towels like you're shooting free throws. And, you know, when we ask for actual help, you tell us to go fuck ourselves. And then when we tell
you the ventilators, he was like, you're lying about the ventilators.
I'm coming right in. Like, dude, like I swear to God, he's a fucking troll, son. Like, he'll do the exact opposite of what you ask him to do. That's some strange ass shit.
And that's just pretty much what's happening here. You know, people are like, corporations are actually like leaning in with Black Lives Matter. How superficial it seems, them changing the logos to Aunt Jemima and shit like that. But he's going the total opposite, bizarro world of, like, he thinks that the world should go with this white supremacist, letting out Roger Stone to call someone a Negro on his own radio show. And it's just crazy. This bizarro, like, supervillain shit, you know, that he does when it comes to black lives. So, like, I really want to introduce a new segment that we have, you know, when it comes to corporate greed. You know, corporations, you know, they dash and bash just as much alluding to. So Jesse drops a new dash and bash segment. You know.
Yeah, so I really wish we had audio for that. I really wish we had audio for that, because that was funny as shit.
So that was the bank robbing. That was the bank robbing people who are going to the bank, you know, and customers. So that's what pretty much happens at banks. You get those, you know, overdraft fees. You get those kind of fees all the time. Somehow the bank is robbing you all the time. Jeff Bezos made billions of dollars while people are trying to figure out this $600 unemployment, you know, benefits, all kinds of stuff, even vaccines, figuring out who's going to pay the vaccines, which is like a global issue, which is happening. And so Jesse plays this one clip everywhere around the world, capitalists, so like really really trying to exploit people. If we play this clip, let's put it in India right now.
The company in question is Glenmark Pharma. It sells an antiviral drug called FabiFlu, a potential cure for the Wuhan virus. The drug regulator of India has sent a notice to Glenmark Pharma. The issue came up after a member of parliament wrote a letter to the health minister. The letter claims the cost proposed by Glenmark is definitely not in the interest of the poor, the lower middle class and middle class people of India. Now here's the math. Glenmark says a patient must take 122 FabiFlu tablets over a period of 14 days. Until last week, a single FabiFlu tablet cost 103 Indian rupees. So the total cost of treatment would run up to 12,500 rupees. India's per capita income is pegged at 1,20,000 rupees. So for most Indians, a full course of FabiFlu.
So if you don't get the rubies, you got the 10% of their annual income.
For the poor, FabiFlu could be out of reach.
For coronavirus,
last week, Glenmark cut the price to 75 rupees per tablet. That's a little more than $1. Now, the government has asked the company to explain the cost of structure. The first impact of all of this was seen on...
So, like, even after, so the UK, like, you step aside poor people, India signs the deal, you know, so it's like betting money for these vaccines. It's just like an open market for vaccines. It's really, this is like the early stages of it. It's just kind of disconcerting that people are doing this for coronavirus treatments, countries and corporations are doing this for coronavirus treatments and vaccines. So if you got a bunch of money,
the rest of the world has been like looking at the United States like from afar, like, damn, you know, we're glad that we're not dealing with these outsized medical costs for pharmaceuticals, and that shit is creeping all around the world now. And I think that people are looking at how desperate the situation is, where people want to be able to leave their houses and go to work, and they're like, well, you know, if you want to be able to live your lives again, then you're going to have to pay through the nose, and we're going to get rich off of this. You know, I didn't know that looting actually
meant more rural places to be outside. You have to.
I didn't know that looting meant profiting from tragedy. I didn't understand. I only recently understood that to be the definition of looting, profiting from a tragedy. So if you look at all of the companies that have seen their stock prices go through the roof during a time where pretty much everybody in the developed world is in a massive depression state. That's where the looting is happening. It's not the person breaking a window or stealing a pair of sneakers with a retail price of $150. We're talking about, you know, these companies that are just like, hey, my name is Jeff Bezos and I made more than $10 billion just yesterday. Where the fuck are you making this money from if the economy is shut down for pretty much everybody in the developed world? Where the fuck are you getting $10 billion from? To me, that's the worst kind of looting. But, you know, everyone's they're entitled to their opinion.
Yeah, but that's why we have our Dash and Bash segment to talk about the Dash and Bash as the corporations do us, like looting us, all looting us. But our guest Adele is here, so we're gonna go to Vote Out 2020 pretty much segment. And I why this Vote Out 2020. You know, start the segment, Jesse, and Adele next to talk about, you know, the new projects she's working on and growing up in Oregon. Hey, so we got a guest here, Adele. Should be. Hey.
Hi, can you hear me?
You?
Hello there.
I'm all right.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. What's going on?
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. Hey.
You know, the guy letting me in, tech guy, couldn't hear me, so I was a little concerned.
Oh, they can hear you loud and clear. Oh yeah, we're live on Black Power Magic Hour. So what's going on? What are you hearing from your homies down in Portland, Oregon? Going on over there?
Oh, well, yeah, it's been going off. I heard that the protesting was starting to taper a bit, as protesting tends to do, but then the feds came in, essentially ICE agents, Border Patrol, and they started gassing people and shooting them with projectiles and, kidnapping people off the street in unmarked minivans. So that's been pretty wild. I've only been reading about it because I live in New York, but I know a lot of people, some people who have been protesting for most of the 54 nights that the city's been in continual protest since George Floyd was killed. So it's interesting. The whole time reminds me of Occupy Wall Street a bit, Messiah, which is where I met you.
Yeah. So I actually have a clip for you, a clip from to give context to the audience and also to your work. Just so you can play the clip from your documentary, The State of Oregon, from Field of Vision. So just you can drop that clip real quick. We can play it. We have a clip that pretty much talks about the history of that state.
This is the
so white, or they don't wonder about it and should. And Oregon was founded as the white-only state. I mean, the Oregon Land Donation Act that gave land to settlers for the Oregon Trail was for white people only.
When Oregon entered the Union as a free state in 1850, 2 years before until 1926. All over the state, unofficial sundown laws determine where people of color could be shot if caught after dark. Gresham is rumored to be a former sundown town. CCTV records Russ narrowly missing Larnell, who pivots 180 degrees and runs for his life. Enraged, Russ sped against oncoming traffic to mow the teen down, dragging Larnell's body under the wheels of the Jeep before speeding off.
Field of Vision, they can take a look. So tell us about the documentary you made. So tell us about that clip that we just saw, Adele.
Well, I grew up in Portland, Oregon. I'm a mixed person. My father is a Vietnamese refugee, and my mom is a white lady. And all growing up, I was very aware that we were different from the majority of white people in the city. But it wasn't until I had been living away from Portland for 10 years as an adult in New York, that I learned that Oregon was the only state to constitutionally ban Black and brown people from citizenship when it became a state. So this is a key piece of information, right? I went to public school my whole life, and I never heard of these racial exclusion laws.
Tell us the scam history all the time.
Right. And, my father was shot in Portland before I can remember, but, it wasn't necessarily a hate crime, but the police did not go after his assailant at all. He was actually another Cuban refugee, and he was just extradited to Florida, and I'll probably have to do a FOIA request to really see if any information even exists in the system from when my father was shot in 1983. But for me, as a documentary filmmaker, I've always been curious about peoples of color stories and experiences in this very white space because we're perpetual outsiders. And I always felt like when you get in a room with another person of color in Portland, it's like you automatically have a connection with that person because you have so many of these kind of shared racist experiences that you store away in your head. And I experienced that a lot, just feeling the differences between the way my mother and father were treated, feeling the tension when people experience them together and then us together as their mixed children. Now it seems kind of commonplace for Asian and white people to have kids and get married. But, my father's the Vietnamese refugee and my mom's the white lady. So we also lived in Portland at a time in the mid 90s when there was, 80s to 90s, where there was a really big neo-Nazi problem. So about a mile away from where I grew up and from where my father was shot in 1989, an Ethiopian refugee named Mulugeta Sarah was beaten to death by 3 neo-Nazi skinheads. And then that was actually the first murder in Portland, in Northeast Portland. And that was the first murder in Portland that was tried as a hate crime, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know about it, of course. I didn't learn about that until I started, Googling everything I could about race and racism in Oregon as an adult outside of the state. So I definitely felt like this very deep and painful history had been withheld from me and from the rest of the public. And I really began to understand my experiences as a person of color more growing up in that space, and why I felt awkward and why I actually ended up leaving and never coming back. I live in New York, which is the most diverse city in the United States. So my experiences when I get up and go outside are completely different from how I grew up, really in a mostly white community until I went to high school and it was more mixed. And that was really the first time I went to school with a significant population of Black kids.
Yeah, so I can't believe we played with Oregon Trail as kids. We played this, so even all this racist ass game. So we would have got all the way over there. A bunch of Black people would have got there. And like, get the fuck out of Oregon. So that pretty much would have happened.
Oh yeah,
Oregon Trail.
Yeah, or even if you got your shit together, you started homesteading or whatever, a white person could just come and steal all your land. And I'm sure that happened over and over again because, Black people were probably interested in that, at all times trying to be free, to get out of the South. And I guess the irony is that slavery wasn't legal in Oregon, but the only reason why they didn't legalize it, it was a northern state, but also the white people didn't want to compete with the rich white slave owners. So they both wanted slavery to be illegal, but they also wanted no Black or brown people in the state. It was supposed to be carved out just for them, and it was. Really, the exclusion laws weren't off the books officially until 1921.
You know what's really crazy? You know what's really crazy?
Yes.
We were taught as kids that these people were pioneers and that they were on this western frontier, boldly going where no man has gone before. But when you look at the actual reality of it all, people were already there. This was not, land that, this is the first time human beings were ever walking on these lands. There were already human beings occupying these lands. So we need to make sure that we get that accuracy out there.
Well, of course. That's the story of America, right? So the biggest losers, in a sense, are the Native Americans who had their land stolen from them and were decimated by disease, and that played itself out in Oregon as it did in the rest of the country just later. So it was one of the last territories to be opened up to white supremacy.
So what's going on?
Another story that I dug up during my research is the Hell's Canyon massacre, and that's where white settlers murdered 30 to 40 Chinese gold miners.
Take their gold. More gold in them.
Yeah. So there is a legacy of mostly Black people, but all people really being brutalized and murdered and forgotten in Oregon. So that's what my film is bringing to light, and making these connections from its founding as a white homeland state to the current white supremacy and hate crimes that we're experiencing right now. We just covered the sentencing for Jeremy Christian. You may remember he was the white supremacist who stabbed to death 2 men on the MAX train who were coming to the defense of 2 Black girls. Yeah, that he was attacked. And the night before he attacked,
that was in Portland too.
That was in Portland, all in Portland. So, you know, this supposed liberal bastion, this quiet, sort of sleepy city has a really insidious, dark undercurrent to it. I wouldn't even call it undercurrent. You just feel it. You know, the Proud Boys are really all over. You know, it's become their own little bastion where they're safe to yell at people on the street. But they know that they'll still get into those altercations that will excite the media or excite them. I don't know. But at the same time, there's not enough determined people of color to kick their asses out of the state. So they're just chilling. Idaho is kind of the same way. I believe that the cop that murdered Mayor Rice, he started a new career as a police officer in Idaho.
So tell me about this writing campaign that's happening in Portland. This mayor campaign.
Wait! Before we go there, somebody has an interesting question out of the Twitch chat. Did the racism of Oregon spread into Canada? Do you have any insight on that? If that's just like a mindset that kind of just bled over the border, or
white supremacy is a mindset that bled over. Look at the history of how white Canadians are racist. But our like hardcore racism came from California, so it bled upwards. And like Chinese I was talking about, the Chinese, the gold miners, they also sojourned from California, where they faced a lot of violence and Chinatown burnings and being murdered and chased out. And then the same thing, the further they traveled up north to mine for gold. So just politically too, the reason we took we took our notes from California's state constitution, which didn't explicitly ban Black people, but they have their own set of sundown towns and extremely racist history. Sundown towns, like I said, scary ass towns that turn into suburbs.
Run from that town. Run from the sundown town.
Exactly. You got to get out of there before the sun comes down, because if you're caught after dark, you could be murdered with impunity and that person never charged, you know. I mean, my father was shot in the middle of the day, but I still, when I hear sundown towns, it just makes me think of that, you know, just how nobody cared. They left him dying in the street, and
it's like the Purge every night.
You know what? I mean, isn't that crazy? And even in the 90s, when I was growing up, when we had the neo-Nazis living in our neighborhood, my dad used to work the swing shift. And he told me this as an adult. When he would come home, he would sit in his car and wait for 10 minutes just to make sure there was nobody around who would ambush him. So, you know, that's pretty wild. And those are the things that your parents try to hide from you when you're growing up, but you feel it, you know, like my mom telling me to go to the store but not walk on the same side of the street as the neo-Nazi house. It's wild, but it was just kind of a part of growing up at that time. And I feel like people felt like the neo-Nazis sort of disappeared in the 90s, but really all the white supremacist gangs went right into the prison system, you know. So all of these young people incarcerated, shipped out of state, shipped back in. So now they have a huge white supremacist gang problem in Oregon's penitentiary system, which is majority white, unlike most places.
Yeah, so I wanted to.
So Arnell Bruce, right? Yeah. So how I got involved in the State of Oregon project is Sean King put this story on blast where this Black teenager was lynched by 2 white supremacists who chased him and then intentionally ran him over. in their Jeep. And this was during Trump's campaign during the 2016 election. And like a lot of people, I just felt the sense that white supremacy, the alt-right, was on the rise. And this murder of Larnell Bruce Jr., a 19-year-old teenager, black, outside of Portland, was on the same street that I grew up on, just further up in the numbers. So he was murdered on the border of Portland and Gresham. And historically, it's thought that Gresham is a former sundown town. So with gentrification, you have Black people, low-income people getting pushed out into these suburbs where they were never wanted. People moved there to get away from them because they're racist. So now you have this mix of people. You have gangs, you have drugs, you have all these institutional problems mixed up in there, and it's actually very violent. So, people think of Portland as a very easygoing, kind of benign, white liberal place, and it's just seething with all of these social, public health issues, public safety issues, problems.
So there's not just hipsters. There's not just hipsters there with flannel shirts and sipping coffee on the sidewalk.
They're loving life. I mean, for some people, it's a great place to live. Although the cost of living is just through the roof now because of the gentrification. So there's definitely. So
what's happening with this May election that's happening in November?
But like people of color also exist there in the mix.
So, but when I'm talking about the May election, this writing election that's happening that you talked about, this writing campaign that's happening in Portland. What's so important about that people should know about?
So one of my main characters is named Teresa Rayford, and she's an activist and organizer. She started an organization called Don't Shoot Portland around the time that Mike Brown was murdered in Ferguson. And Messiah, we've been around a lot of activists. We've been around some movements, and out of the whole Occupy thing, like I just really kind of lost my faith in activism, in that it will ever work or that I will ever be an effective organizer. But I was just so inspired by her pretty much from the moment we met, because I met her in a protest situation, trying to get an interview with her. So, I've been riding with Teresa all these years. I just see that, she's the real deal. There's no, I don't want to say there's no ego in her activism, but it's really not about her. It's completely about the people who she's trying to help. Anyways, she ran for mayor this past cycle, and she didn't make the primaries, but she is just such a stalwart activist and fixture of the community that her followers started a Write-In Teresa Rayford campaign when everything blew up with George Floyd and all of the protesting in Portland. Because the truth of the matter is, like, she's been living this and breathing this activism and speaking truth to power and getting involved in the political system for the past 10 years. So it's really inspiring to see, once again, a grassroots campaign taking off, by this group of people that is so inspired by their leader that they're pushing her to keep running in this writing campaign for mayor of Portland. And that sure will be an exciting election because, not only will we be voting in the next mayor of Portland, but we'll be seeing if Trump is going to be voted the fuck out of the White House or not.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, like, Jesse plays this clip that we all can watch about this Portland News interview. Jesse could play it. So pretty much talking about the writing campaign that's happening.
Oh, great.
Looking ahead to the November
Elections. Right now there's a new push to put Teresa Rayford back in the running for mayor of Portland.
Rayford placed third in the primary election for mayor this year, which means
That's
she's
how
not on the
diverse
official
Portland
ballots
is.
this fall.
There's
The top
white
two
women on the
finishers, Mayor
couch.
Ted Wheeler and second place finisher Sarah Iannarone, will face off
At least
in
there's
the
social
November
distancing.
general election. But a new write-in campaign is now working towards a different outcome. Teresa Rayford joins us live this morning to talk about the new support and how it's being received in this current climate.
It's great that she got on this show. So
good morning. How are you?
Very good. So good to talk with you. I want to ask your reactions to this new write-in campaign.
Well, obviously, as a community organizer, I'm thankful for the effort that's being put forth to do the campaign. And in the current climate, I understand why it's so essential and necessary for people to have leaders that they can count on, that they can get information from, and that they can trust. And so I'm just honored that community is doing something that I literally don't have the bandwidth to handle right now with the work that we're doing.
So that's like her getting media coverage for the writing campaign. So
No,
it was
man.
blown up. It was blowing up like that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was out in the streets hardcore for years, from around the time Ferguson uprisings to now, very recently. So I don't want to say paid your dues. It's bigger than that. She's laid the groundwork for real political change in the city. Timing is just a motherfucker. Like, I don't know if the George Floyd uprisings happened before the primary, if she would have pulled higher. We just got to get these motherfuckers out to vote. Like, everybody wants her to be mayor. It's one thing to want something and to actually go vote. And Oregon has mail-in voting. It couldn't be any easier than that. My parents don't vote. Granted, they have a lot of issues going on right now, but it's fucking annoying. Like, I don't know what to say about that,
Yeah, so at the local level,
But now everybody is clearly organized in Portland, mobilizing every night. What's it been, like 55 days of continuous protest? So let's just get everybody registered. And how amazing will that be when a write-in campaign elects Portland's first Black mayor?
It'll be easy to do that.
Her roots go back like 5 generations. That history of Black.
It'll be easier to vote her in if we could find a way to pay the ransom for all those people that were kidnapped by the government.
I don't even know where they are. But what Teresa did that's so fascinating is
we don't know where they are.
Don't Shoot Portland sued the city of Portland and the Portland Police Bureau for gassing its own citizens, and they were able to get a federal judge to put a temporary restraining order on the gassings, and they continue to do it anyways. And then the feds
says 1,000 protesters came out last night.
Right, but she's you have to have a plan when you're a leader.
People always
you
always remember Portland protesters always going
all the
wild.
lawyers, ACLU, all of them. What?
It's crazy.
What were you saying? What were you saying about those people that were kidnapped? Them still not having been accounted for?
I think some of them, it's hard if you don't even know who they are to begin with. I know some of them were kept in the van and questioned and then dropped off in a different location. I just don't have all of the data. But a lot of the people who have been kidnapped are documenting what happened to them, and they are going to be filing lawsuits through Don't Shoot Portland and the ACLU. So it's important if you were kidnapped or assaulted by police or federal officers that you document what happened to you and you get together with a lawyer through Don't Shoot Portland or the ACLU, and we get this class action lawsuit together. Sue them in federal court.
Absolutely, because I think the only time I've ever heard of a concept like this is in a spy movie, or some sort of novel, some thriller novel or something. I never thought that I'd ever see anything like this in my lifetime. Really happening in my country.
I worked on a drone. No, I worked on a drone strike. Huh? No, I said I worked on a drone strike documentary one time.
Real quick, I mean, I seem to remember federal presence around that time.
Yeah, but them just snatching people off the street, like disappearing them, like I didn't hear anything about that. Like this is absolutely
the US
unprecedented.
Marshals, or like, yeah. I mean, they do this. That's what I'm saying. The drone strike documentary I worked on, we had a subject that was on the documentary, and he was supposed to go to the European Union to testify about surviving the drone strike. And I remember it because it happened on Valentine's Day, the reporting of the news. And he pretty much got kidnapped by like fake police officers in Pakistan. Like they kidnapped him, hung him upside down, and beat him in his feet. It was kind of like they really know what the agency took him away or questioned him. We're still not sure who it was. Probably was people hired by the U.S. government. The kind of stuff that the government does is not a new context, America. To see it happen here, I'm not really sure if it's a new thing. I mean, I hear about weird things at Occupy, but not like Trump, one president saying that he's going to do it in multiple cities at the same time.
Right.
That's if he does it. He lies all the time. He lies about everything. So.
Well, it looks like they're rolling it out.
Yeah.
I got on Facebook the other day. What cities was it? It was like Philadelphia, Oakland. I don't know. There were quite a few articles I was reading about federal presence in these cities that are going off. But in Portland, it galvanized the people even more because what I heard was the shit was dying down. And then the feds came to town and started doing all that stuff. And it really fired people up, the moms on the front lines, this sort of shit. And it's undeniable that a majority of those protesters are white. And another offensive element from the very beginning is there wasn't the belief that white people could care enough about Black lives to be legitimate. They just must want to, have a riot party. And what these young people are saying is like, no.
Waffles is reminding Messiah that his Mac is probably overheating again.
They're ready to go off.
That computer.
What?
Yeah, Messiah, your laptop might be overheating again. Might have to raise it. Kameshwari Kate in the YouTube chat says the Convo Couch YouTube channel has been covering nighttime action in Portland starting at 10 p.m. Pacific time, so that would be 1 a.m. Eastern time for those that are affected by the time zone. So definitely go check that out. Thank you for that, Kameshwari Kate.
All the different angles from all the different live. I don't know. I was watching this thing the other day on Facebook Live. It was just like 10 or 15 different angles of
Global
people
Red Live or something
on their body. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So we're getting these Occupy vibes, and like I want.
Oh yeah, man.
Listen, I want to show. Jesse.
They're like cooking ribs for like. There's this thing called riot ribs in Portland where they just like, you have to make the revolution visible. Yeah, you have to like feed the people. Yeah. So they have the moms going on Costco runs. They're coming back and getting gassed apparently.
So
definite Occupy vibe.
That's to drop this video because this is Occupy going wrong. I went something we can laugh at, just to laugh at. This is like a stupid viral news that happened, but it's like pretty much Donald Trump wouldn't leave the White House. This is pretty much what it will look like.
All right, you want to live in a beautiful home, but how about this? No rent, no mortgage. Well, no problem. That seems to be the case for a Mount Juliet man living in a $500,000 home without paying a dime. So how can someone get away with being a squatter? News Channel 5 investigative reporter Ben Hall went to find out.
We want to talk to you about why you're in this house.
I want to talk to you about getting out of here. How's that? Get that out of my
Don't touch the camera. We didn't want to talk about why he's been squatting in this Mount Juliet home for more than 2 years. The bank says you don't have bank says you don't have a right to.
You know what I got to say?
When did you move in?
Don't matter. None of your business.
Our investigation found that Piskey moved into the home
he just
more
finished
than
beating
2
his wife
years
in
ago,
that shirt.
despite having no legal claim to the property. The banks that had foreclosed on the previous owners essentially forgot about it, allowing it to sit empty for years. This video home tour shows what the luxury log cabin used to look like. Attempts to sell it fell apart because of confusion among banks after the housing crisis.
It sat empty for a while before we tried to buy it.
Ron and Dina Woodard fell in love with the home back in 2014 and tried to buy it at auction.
I knew where all of my furniture was going to be. I mean, it was just, it was ours. We were, and the kids were just as excited about it as we were.
And their high bid was accepted. But days before they were set to close, the bank pulled the plug on the deal.
There was no real explanation of why.
It was just kind of like, oh, we pulled the listing. Sorry.
Yeah.
In late 2012, J.P. Morgan Chase foreclosed on the home, then sold it to Bank of New York Mellon as trustees for investors for a mortgage-backed security. Control over the home has since passed from Countrywide Financial to Bank of America and finally to NationStar. Meanwhile, it is sat empty.
We couldn't get in touch with anybody that would claim any responsibility for the maintenance or ownership or anything else at that point.
City Commissioner Ray Justice contacted more than one bank about the abandoned home, but they didn't seem to care.
I got no response, zero response.
It was about that time Piskey's friends and family suddenly appeared at the house.
That motherfucker sold all the copper piping that was in the house.
Police were first called to the home in April of 2015 for a domestic dispute involving Piskey and his ex-wife. In September, police discovered a stolen vehicle at the property.
The gentleman had no connection to the owners of the property and that we could find.
Piskey actually paid the back property taxes on the home to keep Wilson County from seizing it in 2015. We found Piskey has a history of codes violations. In 2008, he illegally moved the home to a piece of land near Hermitage, forcing Davidson County officials to condemn the home.
This is just nuts.
Justice says he fields weekly complaints from his constituents about the number of cars and junk being stored at the log cabin. Are you gaming the system?
No, man, I'm running for Congress.
NationStar Bank finally sent us a statement saying, "We greatly appreciate that you brought this to our attention," and went on to say, "We are moving quickly to evict the home of its current residents so the home can be prepared for sale."
All I can do is applaud Channel 5
I don't
News.
care about this.
Thank you for actually going an extra mile and helping us get this taken care of.
But as we discovered, getting Piskey to leave may not be easy. This is not your property. The bank says you have no right to be here. As Piskey walked to his truck, we didn't realize what was about to happen.
Let me see here. I'll just
get my gun.
Let me find it.
Oh,
out of here.
All right.
Go, God.
We're backing up.
No, leave, God.
We're leaving right now. Don't hit. We're leaving right now. Now, we were not hurt by all that, but police arrested Piskey and charged him with aggravated assault. He bonded out and still lives in the house. We'll keep watching to see if the bank actually gets him out of the home.
I hate to pull the race card on this one. I hate to be the one, but if he was black, does that end like that with him still in the house after making bond?
No.
Like, let's be real about that, right?
Let's be real about that.
Let's be real about that.
You can do, like, if you're a real scammer and you know all the paperwork and receiving mail and shit, I mean, I guess. But we all know that's white privilege. Come on. Bonded out and went back to the house and chilled.
Yeah, yo, y'all some savages in the chat. I swear to God, y'all some fucking savages. Oh my God.
Is it your house?
Yo, he's like, I can't believe even after. This Occupy going wrong.
Occupy Mansion Street. Yo, this motherfucker moved a part of the house next to the highway for what? What was he? I don't understand.
Oh, I think that was another house. Yeah. He probably didn't own it.
To build like a compound.
Why are you moving the house? This isn't Thailand.
I mean,
Make it a
where
guest
was
house.
that? Like, it may as well be Thailand. Where is this? Like in the South, right?
Oh, that's
It
Nashville.
has to be.
Oh, Nashville.
That's
the only place. That's the only place
you can chase
where you could be a wife beater wearing a dirty wife beater. It's got to be somewhere in the South.
Or Oregon.
Oh, exactly. This is
That's
like,
what I'm saying. That's what people don't understand. It's not like Oregon even really counts in electoral college, but as soon as you get outside of Portland, it's red again. And you actually see Confederate flags and shit.
Oh, we're talking about like brother and sister couples, all of that shit? Like for real?
I mean, I never hang around long enough to find out who's related to who, but I mean, we never left Portland proper. We just didn't leave the city. We would go to the beach, but even the beach you go to, you have to like, you know, think about which beach you're going to and what might happen, especially when it's wild. So, you know, there's a lot of yahoos out there, and that's what people don't understand about the place. It had the largest number of Klan per capita in the 30s. You know, huge neo-Nazi issue in the 80s and 90s coming up through California. Thank you very much.
Pretty sure they still have a high skinhead.
White supremacist gigs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
know that
want
the
to see
skinhead numbers are pretty high over there.
boys in the street heckling people like gutter punk kids. It's fucking annoying. Like, they need to get their asses kicked out of town.
that's crazy. I mean, like, so what's next for you, Adele, when it comes to like what's going on?
No, you know, the pandemic, you know, put a wrench in some of how I was filming the campaign, but in a way that format has freed me up, filming the Zooms and filming screens and whatnot to tell the story of Teresa Rayford's campaign for mayor. And now, you know, the protesting, so the COVID into the protesting, into the lawsuits.
Someone called us Don Lemon in the chat. Someone called us Don Lemon in the chat. Someone called us Don Lemon.
He said,
Don Lemon was a conservative?
I don't know. Don Lemon is red. So, you know.
Oh, like one Confederate flags.
No, I guess he was saying is, folks who fly Confederate flags aren't all like that. Like, I know that. But then I also have to ask you the question, like, why are you flying the flag of the loser traders? The loser traders.
We're in Oregon.
Like, who flies the flag of the losing traders?
In the north.
Like, normally you get hung. Normally you are summarily executed in the eyes of the public for being traitors. We even have laws on the books to this day where traitors against the United States get the death penalty. So I don't understand the love for traitorous losers. Like I'm not saying that they all. What I'm saying is they don't make any goddamn sense.
What about all these states' right people, all these anti-big government people? They're sure quiet right now. All of these Portlanders are getting plucked off the street by the federal government in unmarked minivans, 15-year-old Chrysler minivans. I mean, come on.
We're talking about constitutionists, but like, where are you now? It reminds me.
It only matters for one kind of person, and we already know who they are.
When Fernando Castillo was killed by that police officer in Minnesota, you didn't hear shit from the NRA. Like, I thought that you were about supporting the rights of legal gun owners. He was a legal gun owner that was in effect shot because he was a legal gun owner. So where is the NRA? Like, I keep hearing about your love of guns. What about protecting his rights as a legal gun owner? They were silent. So what am I supposed to think if you're silent when it's not the cause that you want to represent? Like, even if I don't agree with you, like the people that come into our chat and they're saying all of this divisive stuff, I'm still talking to you as if we're human beings. Like, I'm not going to like make fun of you or denigrate you or call you names or yell into my mic or anything like that. We're going to have this conversation because even though I don't necessarily agree with you, your voice still deserves to be heard, which is one of the points of us having the show. So if I am going to defend your right to say things that I don't agree with, why would you not also do the same in making sure that everyone's rights to due process is protected? Because when you don't protect their rights to due process when they're plucked off the street, then what you're saying is to the government that this beta test that they're running on us, this social beta test that they're running to see if we're going to be willing to give up our rights, and when you support their rights being given up, you're giving them the green light. You're giving them the go-ahead to continue to repeal your own rights, which a lot of you seem to be in tune with. A lot of you seem to know that the government has been peeling back our rights and infringing upon our rights. But when you see that these rights are being infringed against people that you don't agree with, all of a sudden you're silent. But what you don't understand is when you green light injustice for them, you're green lighting the same tactic to be used against you in the future.
Yeah, right on, man. Logic.
Yeah,
but logic
people,
doesn't work with
people
these people. One time I went to a Trump rally. I went to a Trump rally to film, for the state of Oregon short that you can watch.
I gotta read this comment from Levon Hughie. These guys are bootlickers. Adele Pham should go on a better show. That is the best comment I've ever seen in 8 episodes of doing this show.
I don't
that is the funniest
comment
I've ever heard. I got Messiah constantly saying on the show that we should put all the police officers on a spaceship and then blast them to Mars or onto the moon. That is the funniest shit I've ever heard. Oh my god! Oh my god! I just went a fucking tirade about protecting the rights of citizens against the government, and at the same time, I look up and this motherfucker's calling me a bootlicker. That's why we do this show. This is why we do this show.
The Black Power Magic Hour is a bootlicking show. Fascist.
Yeah, like do motherfuckers even listen at all?
No, but that's what people say.
God,
so before we have to let you go, Adele. But thank you. Yeah, but thank you for being on the show tonight. Hopefully we can have you on again soon, back on the show again.
Yeah, it's been real, man. I would like to have some kind of a comparative conversation with you between Occupy and what's going on right now. I don't know. Is there a big I mean, are they parallel?
Speak on it. We don't even need to wait
I'm
to
referring to Messiah because, Messiah was more involved with the activism and the Occupy-ish type of things before I was. I just sort of wandered onto the scene.
Well, yeah. I mean, I see parallels, and we saw it's definitely parallels. But I feel like when it comes to Black Lives Matter, but you have this global pandemic, you have Trump, you have all these different elements of people. There's no sports. I mean, it's all these social elements that allow this thing to explode.
That's what I said. I said all these white kids been sitting with their white guilt for all these months. It was just like a Tinder box of white guilt ready to explode in Portland.
Yeah, and that's what I feel. Yeah, and there's almost a similarity. It's what struck me the most about occupiers when we went to the small towns. We went to North Carolina. We went to up New York. Those when you knew shit was real. We went to the small town and the local grocery store let the occupiers use the bathroom. And so that same thing happened with Black Lives. This new George Floyd movement. People were protesting in little Main Street with grandma and grandpa. That was pretty remarkable to see that stuff. That's when it was real.
That Black lives are more front and center of this movement. The 99 and 1% comparison was pretty cool from Occupy. That was a good takeaway, but we were still kind of struggling to be heard as Black people and people of color and real allies. and who should really represent us and what issues should filter up to the top of the agenda, and when it's centered around Black Lives Matter, that's really important. And I really hope that this is some kind of social turning point, the younger generation just being like, we're not fucking with it. We're not about that. And that's why you see like all these little white kids going off in Portland for Black lives and being really like honestly passionate about it. I'm not there. I don't know if it's misguided at all. I'm sure, there's lots of educational moments happening, but for the most part, these young kids, they don't want to live like that anymore. They don't want to live in a racist world, where they're regarded as better because they're white. That's like too much to bear.
Terrence J. Coleman said Portland looks lame. So in the Facebook chat, Terrence J. Coleman, who was begging us to let Adele talk when I guess he missed a lot of what Adele had to say because Adele has been on probably longer than he's been watching. But he says, Portland looks pretty lame. I mean, what have they accomplished with over 50 days of protest? The feds came in and showed them who's boss. My observation from California, and I really want to circle that last sentence. The feds came in and showed them who's boss. The Constitution says, for the people, by the people. So the feds are not the boss. The feds are supposed to be serving the people. The people are supposed to be the boss. So the protests are people letting the government know who's actually the boss. But the thing is that we don't know, that the government doesn't seem to understand that they are the cart and not the horse. They seem to want to be dragging the horse as the cart. The people are the authority in this country. And that's what these protests are about. We're not just going to allow representatives of the government to just do whatever they want without accountability. So snatching people off the streets without due process is not showing us who the boss is. What is showing us is we have a tyrannical government that we all should be protesting against, and they're giving us more reasons to protest. As Adele has already said, a lot of the protests were actually starting to simmer down before they sent in nameless Gestapo, SS, Warfenheimer, Blitzkrieg motherfuckers into that area to get everything fucking generated up all over again. So
yeah, I think
please understand, the feds are not our bosses. We pay the taxes. We are their bosses.
Yeah.
These accounts look like Russian bots sent to instigate. They don't look like real. It's like political views, but
the profile picture is like a car.
Yes, Shabbat. Yeah.
Hey, it is what it is. Because you know what? It could be a bot, whatever. I don't care. But there are people out there silently asking these questions within themselves. They're asking these questions to themselves. Well, I'm fucking answering them. I'm answering the questions. If anybody has anything that they want to say with it, they're not, he's saying that he's not Russian. Terrence is not a Russian name anyway. But the point being that, you can say that people look weak, but when you're talking about unarmed citizens who are exercising their constitutionally protected rights to protest, and then you're having armed jackboot thugs from the government trying to silence that protest, this is anti-constitutional.
Yeah.
This is an infringement on our constitutionally protected rights that you seem to be celebrating simply because you don't agree with why they're protesting. That's how it comes off to me.
Yeah. Very selfish.
Yeah, so that's what's going on. So speaking
if
of
they
selfish,
stop you from getting a haircut, or if they come in to take your guns, or if they took your jobs, all of a sudden you believe that there is some sort of merit to protesting, as long as it's for a cause that you agree with. But what you don't understand is you need to be fighting for us all to retain our rights, if for no other reason, for selfish reasons, so that your rights are protected in the future.
Right.
Because
exactly.
if you're going to stand for the government breaking the law now, you're actually creating a precedent for a new tyrannical law, a new tyrannical system to be set up under which you got to live underneath. So when you don't agree with the government in the future, you're going to be subjected to the same bullshit. And then who's going to be there to stand up for you on your behalf? Because the people that you didn't stand up for, they got disappeared. They weren't even read their rights. They were not given due process. So anybody who was going to protest on your behalf, in case something happened to you that was unjust, all those voices are silent now.
Yeah. And you've also looked at all these activists since Ferguson who have died shadily and disappeared. How easy is it to pick somebody up in an unmarked van? Very.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I swear to God, I've never seen this shit happen before, except in movies, highly stylized movies. And this shit is actually happening in the United States. We can't even say, well, that's happening in Lebanon, or that's happening, in the Congo or in Syria. This shit is happening in our country. Shit that we never thought would ever happen on our shores, on our lands. Now the injustices are on our lands. Now, a lot of people have a lot to say when it's brown people and Asian people, and this shit is happening halfway across the world. Now this shit is in your backyard, and you're just going to sit around and take it? You're cool with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why the moms are out there.
Yeah, it's for the moms.
You got guys disappearing people in the minivan, fully armed against unarmed people, but you're telling me that the unarmed people are looking weak against the armed people. Are you going to make fun of a baby if I punch one in the face? What sense does that make?
It's hard to
Please make sense when you talk. Make sense.
Yeah,
he says people of Portland allowing these people not identifying themselves to snatch them off the street. What the fuck are you gonna do if they're pointing a gun in your face and you're unarmed?
He's leading the guerrilla warfare tactics.
Are you
when people talk, they talk that gun talk. Yeah, he's about to make a Guevara out there in the fucking counter-revolutionary war. Yeah, like people would be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be stronger than you. I'm gonna have bulletproof vests." Like that's just in the movement. Sometimes people talk revolutionary, militant talk, and like, are you gonna do it? Are you gonna go fight a war against the police by yourself, bro? I don't know. But I mean, yeah, but that's what's going on right now. Hopefully, we have you again on the show, Adele. We're gonna jump to our next segment, the virus, to talk about the coronavirus. It's affected the world.
All right.
The coronavirus. It's going to disappear. One day it's like a miracle. It will disappear.
So Trump, I didn't even watch his press conference today because it's probably all bullshit. But right now in China, they're actually after 6 months, they're opening their movies. If Jesse could play this clip right now to show you what it's like to go back to the movies, and I don't even know what they're going back to see. But this is what's happening
Cinemas
in China.
in some parts of China are back in business, reopening for the first time in nearly 6 months. So far, 34,000 people have spent more than $200,000 despite tough COVID-19 safety measures. Lynette Lim reports.
Late last week, the China Film Administration gave the green light for cinemas in low-risk areas to reopen on July 20th. As most of the country is now classified as low risk, it's essentially a nationwide reopening.
所以现在是一个什么样的感觉？
昨晚其实很激动，几乎就没有怎么睡着觉吧。但是今天还好，现在还比较平静。
反正前2天那个微博上热搜了嘛，说是要20号复工，然后我就一直在刷那个逃票票或者是猫眼，我在看，然后就找到这家排片是最早的。
But there are a list of strict conditions attached.
The whitest man I've
One, the number of movies shown per venue is capped at half the previous volume. 2, each screening is limited to 1/3 of its maximum capacity. 3, masks will have to be worn during the entire screening. 4. Tickets won't be sold at the door but must be purchased online in advance. 5. Separate groups of customers will have to sit at least a meter apart. 6. The film screened cannot exceed 2 hours in length. And finally, no food or drinks will be allowed. This will be a major blow as the sale of food and drinks has long been a significant part of cinema revenues. Since the nationwide theatre shutdown in late January, the film industry has seen numerous bankruptcies, layoffs, and films shelved or moved online.
All right, so there's two things I got to say about this. Number one, the measures they put in place is fucking nirvana to me. Like, nobody can sit near me, no overpriced food, get in and get out. Like, that's the way it should have been from the fucking beginning.
Yeah.
And the second thing I got for that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being locked in your house for 5 months, 6 months? If you're in China, it's like 7 months. And then you're allowed to go to the movies, and then you go there and the movie is like fucking dick and balls horrible. Could you imagine the feeling? the movies just fucking sucks.
Spartacus and old ass movies.
Like that weird 10,000 BC. I forget the fucking name of that movie. That everybody was like, this shit is doo doo. Like, yo, like, can you imagine like locked in your house and then you come out of the house and the first movie you see is like ass, like total ass.
Yeah.
Nah, Ricky O is a fucking classic. Don't disrespect that movie.
So that's what's happening in China. Like, that's the measurements here. I don't know if you remember the movie theaters. Like, we open with no mask and have some food. They were totally just gonna open it like nothing. In China, this is the kind of showing to us they want these different things. At least they're trying in China, and whatever trust you have in the Chinese government, the motherland, whatever. That's the information they give and how they open movie theaters. Compared to here, there's hopefully you don't die. So say what you about what China's doing when it comes to movie theaters. If you play this,
the thing is, they got some cool movie ideas happening here in the United States. Down in Orlando, Florida, they're actually creating outdoor movie theaters where boats are like, it's like on the water. Like, they got it like a screen set up like on a beach somewhere, and then like everybody's in the water in like separate boats. Yeah. Like, that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, and then they have drive-ins in Queens now. They have drive-ins in Brooklyn now.
Soviet Russia movie watches you. Now, actually, in China, movie watches you. They probably got somebody behind the fucking screen, like fucking.
That movie's making a copy of you in China. That movie's making a DNA retina scan of you, in China. What they do over there, and that face recognition technology out there.
And if they don't like the way you watch the movie, they won't let you get on the train to go home.
You're displeased. The Portobello, So we're getting these stats when it comes to COVID-19. The past, schools were just shut down out of nowhere. Public schools were just shut down. Parents were just left for their kids. The remote learning, and then pretty much learning the obvious what happened. If Jesse could play this clip right here from this local news segment that talks about.
And a new report says there is disparity in online learning. Analysis by the LA Unified School District found thousands of students from minority or low-income families did not regularly participate in remote learning during the spring. The pandemic forced the district to finish out the school year with online classes. Its report found Black and Latino students of middle and high school grades participated only 10 to 20% of the time. The number is even lower among English learners, students with disabilities, homeless students, and those in foster care. In the spring, LAUSD helped disadvantaged families get online by providing equipment or internet service. Yesterday, Superintendent Austin Butner said on the KTLA Morning News the district will continue to do that and they will continue to help. But today we learned that's going to have to happen for quite some time for a majority of California.
There's a sad story of a young girl who is now in jail because she didn't do her homework from from the remote learning thing. Like she failed to hand in like some homework assignment, and she's now in a juvenile facility because of it. And people are trying to fight for her to get out of jail. Like she's being jailed for not doing the homework. Like that's, like
Look at my bit rate, people. Look at my bit rate. There's disparity in minority, low income people. Look at my bit rate right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real thing.
Yeah, like we're gonna blame it on the fact that he's darker skinned than I am. Why my feed is so smooth. the light-skinned one gets the decent internet.
Yeah, my disparity
and the non-overheated graphics card.
Yeah. This is what's happening right now,
Yeah, he didn't jack in properly to the Matrix.
Yeah, so that's the local report from Much. So I think the public schools are remote. New York City is gonna be can't even figure it out. It's gonna be half remote, half. It'd be interesting if people can talk about in the chats. About parents dealing with the school stuff. That's pretty wild to me. Like sending kids to school. That's an ongoing story we're gonna talk about in the going months in the show, I guess. But we have to end the night pretty much. We had a dope interview with Adele. Went through a lot. Hopefully people learned the history of Oregon being spectacularly racist and how people are trying to undo it and make justice there. It's not about complaining about stuff. It's about words something positive. So that's have politics. So if this clip right now, some good do it up. How are you?
Look at that balance. He's got that inside trip. Oh, he got his footing back. Yo, we need to stop this video because the Epsteins of the world are gonna get a fucking boner, a fucking chub. We can't be showing that. Oh my God, he's stuck in the Matrix. No.
Wait, yeah.
Everybody pray for Messiah. He's stuck in the internet. Wow. This is how we end in the show tonight? Damn. He's stuck. Look at his face. Look, he's stuck. He's trapped in the internet. Yo. Oh shit. We lost him. He took the red pill. Oh shit. See, what had happened was Agent Smith got downloaded into one of the people on the ship, on the Nebuchadnezzar, and then like he woke up and he like pulled the fucking jack out of the back of Messiah's neck. So he's, basically trapped in the Matrix. So I don't know, y'all. I guess this is what happens to you when you talk about the government disappearing people. Like, they come for you. So one of these days, you're going to see my internet fucking disappear. So I guess I'll speak for Messiah. That was Messiah Rhodes. I still am Dr. Evil Genius, and we'll see you on Thursday at 10 p.m. Peace.